Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Jackson. We're going to add to our writing that we've been working on. Let's look at our I can statement. I can write to tell a story. We are working on our fantasy field trip writing, and we're telling a story when we tell where we would like to go on our fantasy field trip. So let's get started. We started our story, and so far we've written the beginning. So let's look at what we have. One day we came to school and there was an airplane waiting for us. The pilot said she would take us anywhere we wanted to go. We decided to go to Hawaii. After a long flight, we arrived in Hawaii. There were palm trees and flowers everywhere. So what we want to do is we want to think, what else can we add to our story? What else can we see and do in Hawaii? Well, I know in Hawaii there are coconut trees. So I'm going to add a sentence about coconuts. Let's do that now. Remember we talked about there are beaches in Hawaii too. So I'm going to add the sentence. At lunchtime, we ate tacos on the beach and picked some coconuts. I'm going to start with my capital. At lunchtime, we ate tacos on the beach and picked coconuts. So I'm being descriptive. I'm telling you where we were. We were at the beach and what we did. I told you we ate lunch, but I also told you what we ate for lunch. We ate tacos. Let's continue. After lunch, we went swimming at the beach. After lunch, we went swimming. At the beach. We are doing so many fun things in Hawaii. And then I'm going to talk about the water. The water was bright blue and full of colorful fish. That's how the water is in Guam too. My daughter has sent me lots of pictures, so we want to describe that. And we're using those adjectives. The water was bright blue, not just blue, and it was full of colorful fish, not just fish. So let's add that. The water was bright blue and full of colorful fish. And I'm putting my periods there. We even saw some dolphins in my story. And I'm going to put an exclamation point there because that's exciting. We even saw some dolphins. So I'm being very descriptive. So after a few hours, it was time to go home. So we got back on the plane and we flew back to school. So I'm going to add that. After a few hours, it was time to go home. So we got back on the plane. And I'm going to end with an ending sentence about my fantasy field trip. I'm going to say it was the best field trip ever. It was the best field trip ever. Okay. So I have given you an opening sentence for my story. I wrote all kinds of details in there about what we did on our fantasy field trip, and then I gave you a closing sentence. So let's read what we have all together now. Look at all these sentences we came up with. One day we came to school and there was an airplane waiting for us. The pilot said she would take us anywhere we wanted to go. We decided to go to Hawaii. After a long flight, we arrived in Hawaii. There were palm trees and flowers everywhere. At lunchtime, we ate tacos on the beach and picked coconuts. After lunch, we went swimming at the beach. The water was bright blue and full of colorful fish. We even saw some dolphins. After a few hours, it was time to go home, so we got back on the plane. It was the best field trip ever. Now, I know that you guys have already brainstormed and thought of where you want to go for your fantasy field trip. I heard so many ideas yesterday. The zoo, the beach, the oceanfront, Mount Trashmore. I think somebody said Canada. All kinds of different places that you want to go on your fantasy field trip. So today, I want you to think of what you will see and do on your fantasy field trip. And I want you to add sentences to your writing. Let's just count real quick and see how many sentences we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sentences. And all I did, boys and girls, was I thought of things we would see and do if we went to Hawaii. I talked about the beaches and the things we would see at the beach. I talked about eating lunch at the beach, the plane ride there, how exciting it was. So I want you to do that when you think of adding to your story. What else are you going to see and do on your fantasy field trip? You're going to work on editing and adding to your story. And then tomorrow, we're going to share them. So I want you to take a good look at your stories. Make sure you start all your sentences with a capital, end them with a period, and put spaces between your words. Make sure your sentences make sense to your reader. So remember, you're checking for 2 things. You're checking to make sure it makes sense to your reader, and you're checking for your capitals and periods. I can't wait to see what you do on your fantasy field trip.